For centuries, the Kthar believed they knew the universe. They knew its laws, its limits, and its speed. Space was predictable. Science was clean. Everything is stable. Another routine day of peaceful observation. Commander. I'm picking up a signature. It's too fast. Too raw. It's impossible. Vex, define impossible, scientist. It's uncontrolled propulsion. Pure, chaotic energy. It's like a massive explosion driving a vessel. It's crude, dirty, and defying every law of physics we know. Narration. They were about to learn that some species don't follow the laws of physics, they only follow the law of force. What is that? It has no shields. No elegant curves. It looks like a mountain of metal. Ella, it's too small for a proper warship, Commander. But the mass, it's enormous. The scan is complete. Commander, its internal energy is focused entirely on armor and weapons. They are broadcasting only one message. This is not a scout ship. This is a human battleship. The message, Ella. What does it say? Ella, if you see this, you are already too close. The observation post, called Deep Watch 7, floated silently in the black void of the uncharted sector. It was a place of calm and scientific curiosity. Inside the post, the walls were sleek, made of smooth white alloys, and softly lit. The atmosphere was one of quiet confidence. Commander Vex looked at the main view screen. Vex was a large, four-eyed alien of the Kthar species, known for their logic and patience. Beside him stood Scientist Ella, a younger alien with quick hands, typing away at a console. They were cataloging dust clouds, a boring, but important job. Report, Ella. Vex's voice was deep and steady. Commander, Sector 12 remains stable. Low-frequency gravitational anomalies are within expected parameters, Ella reported. Everything was normal. Everything was safe. The Kthar had not known a real war in centuries. They believed peace was the only logic. Then, a sudden, sharp alarm pierced the silence. It was not the gentle chime of a data change, it was the harsh siren reserved for a code-red anomaly. Ella's four eyes widened. Commander, I am picking up a signature. It's impossible. Vex moved quickly to her console. Define impossible, scientist. Ella pointed at the screen. The energy reading on the graph was spiking wildly. It was a raw, uncontrolled blast of energy, like a furnace that someone forgot to put a chimney on. The propulsion signature is completely erratic. It is not using a known warp drive or folding space. It looks like a giant firecracker exploding repeatedly, Ella explained, her voice trembling slightly. It's so crude and so incredibly powerful. The energy loss is enormous, Commander. Only a truly primitive species would travel like this. Vex studied the data for a long moment. He adjusted his stance. Primitive, perhaps. But highly energetic. It's moving fast. Too fast for a simple vessel. Order a general alert. Do not engage. We will observe. He spoke softly to the silent crew. What primitive species would dare to use such an inefficient, yet powerful, method of travel? This was not right. Advanced species were clean and efficient. This was messy. The next few minutes were tense. The spike on the graph grew closer, faster than anyone expected. Ella kept saying, it's going to overload the jump point. It's too much stress on the local gravity field. Then, with a violent shudder that even shook the massive Deep Watch 7, the object appeared. It didn't glide out of a smooth distortion of space. It ripped its way through, leaving behind a brief, chaotic field of energy that quickly vanished. Vex and his crew stared at the main view screen. The ship was ugly. It was dark gray, almost black, and looked like a massive, jagged stone floating in space. It had none of the elegant curves or smooth plating of a Kthar vessel. It was thick, blocky, and looked like it was built for one purpose, to take a hit. Status report on the contact, Vex ordered, his voice now purely focused. It is holding position. No communication signal. No shields detected. No clear weapon ports visible, Ella said, confusion in her tone. Commander, it's too small to be a proper warship of any advanced race. It must be a scout vessel. But why is it so heavily armored? Vex zoomed the image. The ship's surface wasn't sleek, it was covered in huge, thick plates. And while there were no elegant weapons, there were massive, dark tubes, simple in design, embedded into the hull. They looked like the barrels of oversized cannons. It is silent, Vex noted. A silent scout. That is strange. Initiate a passive long-range scan. We need to know what is inside that hunk of metal. The passive scan took nearly 3 minutes, minutes of nerve-wracking silence while the black, silent object just drifted, menacingly. Finally, the data came back. Ella read the report, her eyes running rapidly over the technical readouts. She froze. Then, slowly, she looked up at Vex. Her composure was gone. She was visibly shaken. Commander, the scan is complete. And it is not a scout vessel. Vex waited, his expression unreadable. The structural integrity readings. The armor plating alone is thicker than the hull of our own cruiser. The internal space is almost entirely dedicated to massive engines and ammunition storage. It has minimal crew quarters. It is designed only to move, to endure, and to fire, Ella whispered. She paused, then delivered the final, shocking piece of information. Sir, according to the ship classification database, this is not a scout. It is a human battleship. Its size is deceiving. Its energy output is focused entirely on its defenses and weaponry. And Commander, they are broadcasting a single, looping message on an old, forgotten frequency. Vex leaned in. The message? Ella swallowed hard. It's simple, Commander. It says, if you see this, you are already too close. The image of the dark, silent battleship filled the screen, its crude, massive barrels aimed at the void. The sound of the silent, looping threat was the only thing heard in the Kthar bridge. They had detected a single, massive threat, and now they knew what it was. And it was waiting. The tension in the control room of Deep Watch 7 had not eased, it had solidified into a heavy, cold fear. The silent human battleship remained a dark, ugly sentinel outside, its presence a direct challenge to the Kthar understanding of space travel and war. Commander Vex had moved away from the initial shock. His Kthar logic, though rattled, now demanded an answer. They needed to dissect this brute force and understand the mind that created it. Ella, focus all processing power on the detailed structural analysis. Ignore the mass, we know it's heavy. Focus on the why, Vex commanded. Scientist Ella, though still tense, nodded and began projecting complex, 3D holographic schematics of the human battleship in the center of the room. The Kthar crew gathered around the cold, rotating image. Commander, look at this, Ella began, pointing to the ship's massive hull plates. The armor is not a composite, layered material like ours, designed to dissipate energy. It's just solid metal. Simple, crude alloys, stacked miles deep. We estimate the structural redundancy is over 800%. It's designed to be pulverized and still hold together. Another scientist, Trell, spoke up, his voice hushed. But that is so illogical. Such density requires immense power just to move. The amount of fuel wasted on hauling that dead weight is equivalent to fueling an entire Kthar research fleet for a decade. Why the inefficiency? Vex ran a clawed hand over the holographic plating. Inefficiency, Trell, or a different kind of efficiency. They are sacrificing speed and elegance for raw, unyielding endurance. They are not trying to avoid getting hit. They are building something that is unwilling to die. Ella then shifted the display to the engine section. The room gasped again. And here is the madness, Ella stated, her voice full of disbelief. Their drive system. It's a series of controlled, continuous fission reactions. It is dangerous, loud, and incredibly dirty. The energy output is enormous, yes, but the exhaust is so toxic, the human crew must be living in extreme shielded conditions. And the fuel consumption, our simulation shows this battleship can only make 3 high-speed jumps before requiring an entirely new refueling station. Trell, the propulsion expert, stepped back. It's built for short, violent bursts. It's not meant to patrol or explore. It's meant to travel a short distance, unleash its power, and then either retreat or die. This ship is not a starship, it is a giant, short-fused bomb. Vex nodded slowly. They are spending the resources of a planetary system for a single, powerful act of destruction. They have chosen intensity over longevity. The focus shifted to the massive, dark barrels protruding from the hull. These were the primary weapons. The Kthar team had difficulty classifying them. It appears to be a basic, kinetic delivery system, Ella explained. No energy conduits for plasma. No emitters for focused light. It simply accelerates a massive projectile, a slug of inert metal, to an incredible fraction of light speed using magnetic force. A railgun, they call it. Vex stared at the calculated power of the weapon. The projectile is simple, no doubt. But the impact energy is higher than our concentrated plasma beam. There is no countermeasure, no graceful way to deflect a physical object traveling that fast. Our shields are designed to scatter energy, they are useless against this brutal momentum. The true terror began to set in. The humans were not fighting an elegant, technological war. They were fighting a physical war against the laws of space. They had looked at the battlefield and chosen the simplest, hardest, most destructive answer. Minutes turned into a nervous hour. The battleship remained silent. It did not move, did not communicate, and did not activate any further systems. "Commander, it is still not responding to our standardized hailing frequencies," reported the communications officer. "It is just broadcasting that single, repetitive warning, 'If you see this, you are already too close.'" The silence was the worst part. The Kthar knew what the ship was, but they did not know what the humans wanted. Did they not see Deep Watch 7? Or did they see it and simply not care? "This silence is deliberate," Vex concluded, his voice low. "They are testing us. They are waiting for the first sign of aggression, the first sign of fear." He made a hard decision. "Ella, launch one of the smallest observation drones. Keep it passive. Give it a trajectory that will take it close to the battleship, but maintain a safe distance, a distance we have defined as safe according to their known weapon range." A small, high-tech, silent Kthar drone was ejected into the void. It was sleek, tiny, and nearly invisible. The crew watched the track as it slowly moved toward the massive, dark shape of the human battleship. The silence on the bridge was deafening. Every eye was fixed on the screen, waiting for the human reaction. Would they communicate? Would they move? The drone crossed the line Vex had calculated as the safe zone. Nothing happened. The battleship remained still, a dead beast in the dark. Vex sighed in relief. "Good. The range is farther than we thought, or they are just ignoring it. Prepare for further observation." Suddenly, before Vex could finish his sentence, the human battleship moved. Not its entire body, but one of its massive, crude turrets rotated with impossible speed and locked onto the tiny drone. There was no warning flash, no charge-up sound. Just a brief, deafening, metallic thump sound, and then an incomprehensible streak of light shot out from the barrel. The high-tech drone, moving at maximum velocity, simply vanished. It didn't explode, it was instantly vaporized by the kinetic impact. But the real shock was what happened next. The projectile, the simple slug of metal, did not stop. It kept going, traveling at an unimaginable speed, straight through the space where the drone had been, and then through a minor asteroid field 500 kilometers away. The slug tore through the rocks, shattering them into dust, before finally slowing down into the deep void. Vex's 4 eyes were wide with horror. His logical mind struggled to process the sheer, raw force. "Commander, the speed was 10 times faster than expected. The drone was gone before our detection systems registered the weapon discharge," Ella stammered. The battleship turret immediately rotated back to its previous position, completely silent once more, as if nothing had happened. It had proven its point with overwhelming brutality. Vex gripped the edge of his command console. He looked at the battleship, no longer seeing a curiosity, but a terrifying, logical weapon. "They didn't just calculate a safe zone, Ella," Vex murmured, his voice heavy with dread. "They were waiting for us to define the line for them." The red alert klaxon sounded again, much louder this time. "Commander. New contacts. Multiple jump signatures. They are following the same chaotic energy profile." On the main screen, where the single human battleship sat, 2 more, identical black, jagged ships ripped their way out of space, positioning themselves perfectly beside the first. Then, a 4th. Then, a 5th. The silence of the Kthar bridge was broken by the sound of Trell's whisper. This was not a scout ship. This was the warning. The command bridge of Deep Watch 7 had transformed from a calm scientific center into a crisis zone. 7 black, ugly, and massively powerful human battleships now floated in a tight, simple, and utterly intimidating formation just outside the Kthar station's observation range. They were perfectly spaced, like a set of gigantic, dark teeth waiting to bite. Commander Vex, despite the escalating danger, maintained a rigid posture. Panic was illogical, but the reality was terrifying. "Trell, confirm ship count and structural integrity on all new contacts," Vex ordered sharply. "Confirmed, Commander. 7 total ships. All identical in mass and weapon configuration. They are battleships, nothing else. They are all drawing maximum power to their primary railgun systems and armor plating," Trell reported, his voice a strained whisper. "They are not communicating, not hailing us, not even broadcasting any ID codes," Ella added, her hands flying over her console. "They are broadcasting nothing but the original warning: if you see this, you are already too close." Vex looked at the 7 silent titans. "They have made their point. The warning is not for the individual ship, it is for the entire formation. They have claimed this territory with their presence alone." Vex stepped away from the command chair and addressed his senior staff, the fear in the room almost palpable. "We must understand the human mind now, or we will lose everything. Our databases show they are creatures of extreme emotion, loyalty, rage, and a terrifying sense of self-preservation. Their philosophy of war is not about minimizing losses, it is about ensuring victory through overwhelming, focused force." Ella projected historical data on humans, records of brutal, centuries-long wars fought with crude, explosive weapons on their home planet. "Commander, their history is violent. They value simple, direct confrontation. They call this battleship class the Warden. A Warden does not negotiate, it enforces," Ella explained. "They built this ship because they understand fear. They know this design, blunt, simple, and unyielding, will cause more psychological damage than any elegant energy weapon. They realized the silence was the cruelest weapon. The humans knew the Kthar would analyze, wait, and calculate, and the longer they waited, the more terrifying the battleships became. The humans were turning the Kthar's own logic against them." Suddenly, one of the human battleships, the central one, designated Warden 4, did something unexpected. It slightly shifted its massive bow, just a tiny amount, pointing it directly at Deep Watch 7. It was not a hostile move, but a clear, focused aim. Vex instantly knew this was a challenge. "They are waiting for our response. They want us to blink." Before Vex could issue an order, Trell shouted, "Commander, the human ships are locking down. They are running deep diagnostics." "Wait, no. They are running a targeted calibration sequence. They are calculating a firing solution on our station." This was not war, it was a clear threat of execution. The suspense was unbearable. Deep Watch 7 was a science station, not a warship. It had no meaningful weapons. Vex made a quick, desperate decision. Signal them. Send a simple, universal peace greeting. Protocol Alpha 7. Show them we are not a threat. Ella immediately sent the signal. It was a mathematical sequence, a symbol of curiosity and peace, one universally recognized by sentient life. The human battleships ignored it. The calibration sequence continued. They were treating the peace signal like static. The silent tension lasted another minute. The Kthar crew could hear the hum of their own station's life support systems, a high-tech whisper against the terrifying silence of the 7 dark ships. Then, Warden 4 completed its sequence. It didn't fire at Deep Watch 7. Instead, it rotated its huge gun barrel slightly and fired a single shot into the empty space, the very space Deep Watch 7 would have occupied had it tried to escape in that direction. Thump! The massive kinetic slug tore through the void. It did not hit anything, but it created an unbelievable shockwave that rattled Deep Watch 7, even at its distance. The energy dispersed when the slug finally vaporized miles away. "They just showed us the exit door," Vex whispered, the meaning chillingly clear. "They told us, we know where you are going to go, and we can hit you there before you even decide to leave." The message was not just, "Do not enter," it was, "You are trapped." Vex looked at the faces of his crew, fear, confusion, and a dawning respect for the savage efficiency of the human threat. 7 battleships, 0 communication, 1 terrifying message. "We must retreat," Vex announced, the decision heavy on his mind. "We are not equipped for this logic. Prepare the jump coordinates. We will leave this sector to them and report this madness to the Council." As Deep Watch 7 began its own complex, elegant jump sequence, the 7 battleships remained motionless, their dark hulls reflecting the distant starlight. They had not chased the station, they had not fired again. They had simply won by existing. The command to retreat was instantaneous, yet executing the jump sequence was a slow, agonizing wait. Deep Watch 7, being a scientific platform, used a highly sophisticated, but slow-to-charge, gravitational fold drive. As the chronometer ticked down the final minutes to the jump, the Kthar crew held their breath. They knew the human battleships could easily track their complex energy signature. They knew the Wardens had already demonstrated the ability to hit a moving target across vast distances. "Jump sequence at 50%, Commander," Ella reported, her voice strained. Vex stared at the main screen. The 7 human battleships remained motionless. They did not track the station, nor did they aim their weapons. They were simply floating, waiting. It was as if they were confident that Deep Watch 7 had already received the message. "They are allowing us to leave," Vex observed, a cold realization washing over him. "They want us to take the message back to the Council." This was not a random encounter, it was a demonstration of sovereignty. The jump sequence reached 100%. With a smooth, sudden silence, Deep Watch 7 warped out of the sector, leaving the 7 dark, silent battleships to guard the empty space. Hours later, now safe in Allied territory, Commander Vex began writing his report for the Kthar High Council. He did not write about advanced technology or shield failures. He wrote about humanity. He summarized the terrifying facts. Design philosophy: human ships defy all logical design. They are inefficient, dirty, and over-engineered. They prioritize endurance and kinetic force over everything else. The weapon, the railgun, is a weapon of brutal simplicity. It is unstoppable and its power is terrifying. They chose the least complex, yet most destructive, method of attack. The tactic, They use silence and waiting as their primary psychological tools. They want their opponents to self-destruct through fear and analysis. Vex dictated his conclusions to a recording drone, his large form looking heavy and weary. The greatest threat posed by the species, human, is not their technology, it is their logic of madness, Vex stated. We value life and efficiency, they value will and victory at any cost. Their battleship is a physical embodiment of their culture, unwilling to compromise, and terrifyingly resilient. He paused, then added a chilling detail: the human battleships, the Wardens, were not built to defend their territory. They were built to destroy any concept of a safe zone around their enemies. They are a declaration that no space is safe if they choose to enter it. Vex looked at the star charts, now overlaid with the small, aggressive patch of space the humans had just claimed. We must face a new galactic reality, Vex concluded in his report. We spent centuries building elegant, advanced societies, focused on minimal energy loss and maximum efficiency. The humans spent the same time mastering the art of making things that kill in the simplest, hardest way possible. He finished the report with a solemn warning that would echo through the galaxy. The human battleship is not a ship of war, it is a blunt instrument of war. It tells the universe that when humanity decides to fight, they do not rely on fragile physics or complicated shields. They rely on steel, gravity, and pure, concentrated, unyielding rage. The galaxy has just learned what a human battleship truly is. And now, we must decide how to deal with a species that is too stubborn to die, and too brutal to lose. The video ends with a final, slow zoom in on the schematic of the battleship, emphasizing the thickness of the armor and the sheer size of the railgun barrels.